Rules Committee come to order, and thank you very much. Today, the committee will consider H.R. 2, the Medicare Access and CHIP Reauthorization Act of 2015. Repealing and replacing Medicare's sustainable growth rate model is something I think that we all agree, Republicans and Democrats, and certainly every single physician in this country. Thus, today, we are trying to find an answer. We believe SGR was certainly well-intended, but has turned out to be a flawed policy that has, I think, really done a disservice over time to Americans, physicians, seniors, and taxpayers. In fact, we have seen a decade of temporary patches to SGR that now exceeds the cost of a permanent fix, meaning we really should have fixed this a long time ago, and we really need to fix it now to avoid it becoming something that spirals out of cost that we cannot ever pay for. So we cannot continue to fund temporary patches that fail to fix the SGR formula itself, and that is why we are here today. In addition, it's not only vital that we get SGR done, but we also turn our attention to other important issues surrounding health care and policy issues, including, I think, providing relief to physician-owned hospitals and Medicare reimbursement to air medical providers. But these are all issues that have been spoken about very openly, not only in Republican and Democrat circles, but by policymakers. But what we're here today is SGR. Doctors became doctors because they want to heal patients and eliminate human suffering. They're devoted to that. They don't become doctors because they want to navigate their way through bad policies that force them to pick and choose which patients they will treat, meaning which patients can pay them or not. That's where the federal government comes in. This bipartisan bill ensures that they will not have to face this difficult choice necessarily. You and I both know that the history of health care means that something could change tomorrow, but we need to do our job today. It also ensures that American seniors will have a better chance at quality and for the doctor that they choose. So I look forward to hearing the testimony from Chairman Pitts, a gentleman who was in my class of 1997, and certainly Ranking Member Frank Pallone from New Jersey. We welcome Frank also. I want to thank them for their hard work. They both were involved in this, have been involved as a result of their committee assignments. Probably every member of this committee has been called and prodded and cajoled along the way these last couple days as the bill was released. But that's why we're here today. And before we ask our witnesses to come up, I want to say that we also have 4 young men from the SMU Cox School of Business, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, which I have the pleasure of representing. They lost in the first round to UCLA, but they've got a good, everything else is and the basketball team's good too. But these guys, I know. The wildcat that you are, Louise. And by the way, have we gotten to the point where we're going to talk about that rhubarb pie?
Yeah, we'll do that later.
Yeah. So, Bradley, Olmstead, Preston Early. I told Preston, I said, I think I know your parents, and he assured me I didn't. Jeffrey Hughes and Evan Clark are all here to watch the Rules Committee today, and I know these 4 young men from the Cox School of Business will enjoy coming to see this Rules Committee effort today.
It's nice to have you.
And I would like to defer now, if I can, to the ranking member for any opening statement she'd like to make. The gentlewoman has no statement. I'd like to welcome our witnesses that are here today. Mr. Chairman, Pitts will put you here. Mr. Pallone will put you there. As always, you remember you got to push the button to get the green light on. Without objection, anything you have in writing will be entered the record, and we appreciate you being here. Mr. Chairman, you're now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Rules Committee. I'm here today in strong support of H.R. 2, the Medicare Access and CHIP Reauthorization Act of 2015. Since the year 2003, Congress has recognized that SGR's flawed budgetary a flawed budgetary formula that financially punishes physicians who care for the health care needs of our nation's seniors. Under the SGR, if seniors' health care needs generate higher spending levels in a given year different than the spending levels that congressional budgeters accounted for when designing SGR back in 1997, physicians get paid less the following year. And this crude budget cap was not built on the sound economic principles, as it would just result in across-the-board cuts. As the projected cuts have accumulated, now physicians' reimbursements would be cut by roughly 21% under the SGR. And this is not realistic, and physicians have warned that if Congress cuts, they will stop seeing new Medicare patients, and we can't let that happen. Congress has therefore intervened 17 times to override this broken formula, but there's widespread recognition that the uncertainty surrounding these patches has created a burden of concern and disruption, both for physicians and the seniors they serve. Today, SGR is set to cut physician rates on April 1st, unless Congress acts. But now the House is prepared to act on legislation that would permanently repeal the SGR and put behind us the frenetic doc fix exercises. I believe it is time for the House to act. H.R. 2 would repeal the flawed SGR policy once and for all and replace it with a system that allows greater freedom for physicians to practice medicine. This bill gives physicians a greater say over how the government defines what quality care is for patients and reduces the administrative burden that the government has placed on the backs of physicians. The legislation also brings greater transparency to the Medicare program so seniors can shop online to find the best physician in their area. These common sense policy reforms are a big reason why the bill passed out of the Energy and Commerce Committee with a bipartisan vote of 51-0 last Congress. This bill also offsets part of the cost of SGR repeal by addressing one of the biggest concerns I have for seniors in the future, and that is the looming insolvency of the Medicare program. Future generations of Americans have understandable doubts about whether Medicare will be there when they retire. They pay into the program just like those of my generation, but the current system of funding the program cannot deliver on that promise. That fact is beyond doubt, as nonpartisan economists, actuaries, and the Congressional Research Service have confirmed it. We know Medicare needs to be strengthened. It is fair to say that members of Congress disagree on the exact package of more long-term reforms necessary to do that, and I respect the perspectives on all sides. SGR repeal, however, begins the process of reforming the program in 2 steps. Step 1, the bill asks that seniors with high incomes to pay a greater share of their health care cost. Step 2, it makes reforms to Medigap plans so that future seniors, not those in the program today, who choose to purchase a first-dollar coverage Medigap plan will pay the cost of their Part B premiums rather than purchasing plans which encourage overutilization and greater spending. This policy is a step to ensure that the Medicare program can continue to fund the health care needs of seniors well into the future. Chairman Sessions, Ranking Member Slaughter, and to all my colleagues on this body, this bill is not perfect and cannot be everything each of us would want to see in SGR repeal. There have been numerous articles on this fact in recent days, and some continue to debate these questions in the press as we speak. However, I do believe it is a fair deal that represents bipartisan compromise, fixes the SGR problem, and allows us to work together on longer-term improvements to the program. I believe that we can and should support H.R. 2 because its improvements and reforms will be felt for decades to come. I want to thank Chairman Upton for his leadership on this issue and leading the charge to get us here today. I'd also like to thank Ranking Member Mr. Pallone and my counterpart on the Health Subcommittee, Mr. Green, for their efforts, as well as my colleagues on the Ways and Means Committee for their collaboration and support. This is the first big package we have done since he ascended to the ranking member spot, and I think it's a good first step. This bill stands as a testament to the accomplishments of the House they can deliver when it works together. So thank you for the time you've afforded me here today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may
Mr.
have.
Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Pallone, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to say it's a privilege to be here today under the circumstances because, as you know, it's a rarity that I appear before the Rules Committee on the same side as Speaker Boehner. So this is a little unusual, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm here to support a bill that literally has been decades in the making. As you know, Congress has had to pass 17 doc fixes since the SGR was enacted, and finally we've come together and found a bipartisan compromise to fix it permanently. The Speaker and the Democratic leader, working alongside the committees on Energy and Commerce and Ways and Means, have put together, I consider, a very balanced package to once and for all rid Congress of the SGR, and it's worthy of our support. This bill is a result of a lot of hard work. Many of the members have made important contributions to this bill, and I want to thank them for being so diligent. I have to mention Dr. Burgess, a member of your committee, as well as Energy and Commerce. He's worked on this, and a lot of the substantive bill is a result of his effort. But H.R. 2 not only permanently fixes the SGR, it reforms our healthcare system. It puts Medicare on a path towards paying providers based on quality and efficiency, not volume. It rewards improving health outcomes. It allows providers to give more focus to their patients. And it provides doctors with the ability to innovate and test out alternative payment models while strengthening the current fee-for-service system with more of an emphasis on quality. And most notably, it provides certainty and stability to ensure access to Medicare doctors for our nation's seniors. I'm very proud that this bill makes permanent 2 programs. There are a number of programs that are extended, as you know, for 2 years, but 2 programs that have long been a priority of mine are made permanent. One is the Qualifying Individual, or QI program, which helps low-income seniors pay their Medicare Part B premiums, and the Transitional Medical Assistance Program, which allows low-income families to maintain their Medicaid coverage for up to 1 year as they transition from TANF to work. And so when we pass this bill, these low-income families will no longer need to worry about the future of these programs. The bill also includes funding for critical health care programs like community health centers, teaching health centers, both of which help provide health care to millions of Americans who need it most. And as I mentioned, and I know Chairman Pitts mentioned, this is a compromise. This bill is not exactly what I would have written alone, as I'm sure my Republican colleagues would say the same. For example, I would like to see 4 years extension for the SCHIP program, and we only have 2. But, and I'm also concerned about some of the pay-fors that affect Medicare beneficiaries. But look, both doctors and beneficiaries are sick of the uncertainty that comes with a doc fix patch every year. And when Congress patches the SGR, paying for it becomes more and more of a challenge. So the main thing is this is a good package, and it eliminates the uncertainty. I do have one request, Mr. Chairman, and the committee, and that is because of the importance of the bill, I was hoping that you allow ample time for debate, because I know a lot of members have important views on this legislation, and their views should be heard. So I hope we can have, some sufficient time tomorrow for that. But again, I couldn't be more happy with the result of this bill. It's a great package, and thank you all for your contribution to this. This is going to be a big success, I think, for this Congress. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I have 2 questions. Mr. Pallone, are we going to see anything that comes from the White House that is about a SAP on this issue?
I haven't seen anything, but I assume they'd support it. We have it?
Well, I think the
We're supposed to get it today, apparently, Mr. Chairman.
said, there was a statement today in the press that he wanted to sign.
Yeah, I think that we're supposed to get something today,
Okay.
but I
I'm
can't.
not picking on him. I was.
Yeah, I imagine we'll have
See if
it.
anything would be there to.
Gentlemen, yield. In Politico today.
Gentleman's recognized.
In Politico, it says President Barack Obama said this morning that he's ready to sign legislation to repeal the flawed and long-derided sustainable growth rate. So I think
So we'll kind of leave it at that.
we'll leave it at that.
We think we're doing the right thing. Okay.
I have no doubt we'll see it, but we're supposed to get it later today, I think.
Okay. Mr. Pitts, you're playing quarterback on this issue, and I am well aware there are others who are maybe the running back and the fullback and the wide receivers on this too, but tell me about this, because it's got to be done by the 31st. And it's going to require the House, it's going to require the Senate, it's going to require the White House. Is there a game plan?
Well, the plan is we have the agreement made, bipartisan, between Speaker Boehner and Leader Pelosi, and we intend to pass this, and I think we've whipped it. We think we'll have a pretty strong vote tomorrow and send it to the Senate. From what we hear from talking to individual senators is we think that they will agree with this, but you know, we've got to do our part, and that'll be tomorrow.
Okay, so we do our part and then have a strong desire to believe that the Senate and the White House would afford that. The reason why I say that is because I think if the President has indicated he's for it, it's a strong indication to others that let's get our job done. Let's see if we can make this work together. Good, thank you very much. Mrs. Fox?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The news sounds very positive. I have no questions, but I thank our colleagues for being here today.
Mrs. Slaughter?
I thank you both for being here, and I didn't know if any of us would ever live to see the end of SGR. Hand-wringing over that for years and years and years, and I congratulate you for coming up with this. Certainly congratulate Leader Pelosi and Speaker Boehner. I understand they've been working on this for some 2 months. They know how to keep a secret, don't they? But anyway, I think that's fun. But I do have a few questions I'd like to ask Mr. Pallone, if I may. Mr. Pallone talked about Section 221 of H.R. 2. As you know, as one of the chairs of the pro-choice caucus, I'm opposed to height restrictions under the current law. And the restrictions state that no federal tax money can be used to fund abortions except in cases of rape, incest, or the life of the mother, and is reinstituted annually through the appropriations process. Can you explain anything more about what language in H.R. 2 does with respect to the Hyde Amendment?
Well, thank you for bringing this up because I do want to explain it. Section 221 in H.R. 2 currently contains a freestanding provision that applies the same requirements in the appropriations bill passed into law last December. So according to a memo obtained by my staff from CRS, amounts appropriated for fiscal year 2016 and 17 under the draft proposal would be subject to the Hyde Amendment restrictions in the same way funds provided under the Labor HHS Education Appropriations Measure are currently limited by the Hyde Amendment.
So how is the language contained in H.R. 2 different from language included in S. 178, Senate Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act of 2015?
Well, I think it's very different. The Senate bill creates a new domestic trafficking victims fund that would be funded not by taxpayer dollars, but through fines imposed on defendants convicted of federal human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and human smuggling crimes. The Hyde Amendment only applies to taxpayer dollars. So the Hyde Amendment restrictions have never been applied on a federal fund containing zero taxpayer dollars. Therefore, the Senate bill is much different than the bill before us today. The Senate bill essentially would expand the Hyde Amendment, whereas this bill maintains the status quo and focuses only on taxpayer dollars, and it expires in 2 years, and as I said before, is freestanding.
And we appreciate our Senate colleagues holding firm, resisting the effort in the Senate. But the last question, Mr. Pallone, if it were up to you and me, the Hyde Amendment would be eliminated. Isn't that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. But that does not affect this bill, and we thank you very much.
Thank you.
I yield back.
To the committee that we've ever had, or at least I can speak the last 17 years. And I think Mike Burgess has done yeoman work to really up not only our ability here in the Rules Committee to weigh and measure, but also divide and conquer. And I'm most appreciative to both of you. I know you've looked to Mike many times, really for a lot of common sense advice and information. And I would yield now to the gentleman from Louisville, Texas, Dr. Burgess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my understanding is I'm going to get ample opportunity to talk about this tomorrow, so let me be pretty limited. I do want to point out that Of course, there are physician practices that will not accept Medicare patients because reimbursement doesn't cover the cost of delivering care. I want to stipulate that I always saw Medicare patients because my mother called me one day and told me I had to. So I always did. But unfortunately, it is a patient access problem. And you see it so acutely when someone has moved to be closer to their kids and grandkids. And they've retired, left their job, left their doctors that they've been with for years, and now in a new town, no one wants to answer the phone. So this is most of all, above everything else, a patient access issue. It's also an access issue on SCHIP, community health centers, but for our Medicare senior population, it is an access issue. And Mr. Chairman, since you have your business class here, I wasn't going to go into great detail about this, but I do feel obligated to point out that if a physician in practice is going to make a business case for expanding their practice, if they want to plan for the future, hire a new doctor, the cost of capital is significant. If they want to lease or purchase a new piece of equipment, and they go down to their friendly banker with the pro forma in hand, but in the interest of full disclosure, have to say, but I may be getting a 23% reduction in reimbursement on April 1st, their banker is going to return a very cold stare, as only a banker can, and decline their respective request for credit. So this is something that affects, yes, the business aspect of medicine. Yes, it affects patient access. But I got to tell you something. I get to talk to lots of doctor groups around the country, and there is nothing that has pulled the joy out of practicing medicine more than the uncertainty created by the sustainable growth rate. So I thank both of our witnesses for being here today. As you know, I work closely with both members, and Chairman Pitts, you did an excellent job, better than I could have done, is summarizing why we're here today and why it's important that we're doing what we are going to do. Mr. Pallone, as you know, we spar frequently, but perhaps this can be a new template for working together in the future, and I'm just so grateful that we're here and we're getting this done.
Could I just say one thing? I always often struggle with the message on the SGR, because obviously the SGR means nothing to people. What is SGR? And then I hesitate to use DocFix, because I think you're right. This is really more about access, by seniors to Medicare and to doctors. So I think I wish we could come up with a better way so the emphasis isn't always on the doctors. It really should be more on the seniors' access to health care. So I don't know how to phrase it. Maybe we can come up with a better way.
Well, it ends the uncertainty that seniors and docs face every year with these patches. And this will end that, which is really an important reform.
Mr. Pallone, reclaim my time. I mean, it's my hope that after tomorrow, we won't actually have to talk about it anymore, and that's actually the day that I live for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're very kind. I'll yield back.
You bet. I want to thank both of you very much. This committee has been engaged in this issue throughout those patches, and it creates enormous uncertainty and really, quite honestly, ill will between those who, as Dr. Burgess suggested, are trying to do the things to meet with our seniors and patients. And I applaud each of you. I've been in this negotiation from a perspective of getting it done. And you can't always decide exactly what the deal is because it's been agreed to. We're going to stick to the agreement. I think there are things that I would change in half a heartbeat, but that has nothing to do with it. The bigger goal today was SGR. I want to thank both of you for being here today, and both Louise and I do recognize it's a lot of work that you've done. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you'll please make sure you leave something for the great stenographer, and that way she's able to. Oh, I didn't call on everybody else? Jim?
First, I want to thank both Mr. Pitts and Mr. Pallone for their work on this. Mr. Burgess, thank you for your work on this. And I especially am grateful to Leader Pelosi and Speaker Boehner for working in a bipartisan way to get a compromise that none of us think is perfect, but nonetheless is fair. And I hope this is one of those teachable moments. that demonstrates what can happen when we work together. We did so, and we passed the Department of Homeland Security bill, and we're doing it here, and I expect that there will be a very strong vote. There are things in here I'm not crazy about, and I wish I could change, but look, this is about a give and take, and but this is an important action that we're taking, and it's important to a lot of the doctors and hospitals that I represent. It's important to a lot of the low-income communities that I represent. So I just want to say thank you, and I look forward to voting for this on the floor tomorrow.
Judge Hastings?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm still a bit undecided, largely not because of the extraordinary work that I believe Mr. Pitts, Mr. Pallone, the committee, Dr. Burgess, all the people that are involved. I'm always fascinated by the Medicare discussion, and I agree with Mr. Pallone and Dr. Burgess that access to health care should be what we talk about as opposed to physicians, although the physician's interest is real. But you know, one thing that kind of goes ignored is that every physician in this country that does an internship, the federal government spends $145,000 for that person. I might add, I don't think the caps that we have in that area are sufficient to meet the future. We now have a cap of $3,000, and I think, and we'll attempt, along with my thinking, to bring about a change in that, because I think we need and are desperately going to be in need of additional physicians and nurses. I firmly believe that the Children's Health Insurance Program should have been extended until the year 2019. HHS called for that. 2 years, I guess, is what we have to live with. I also am not a believer that abstinence-only measures are effective. I don't think that they have shown to be. However, I don't quarrel immensely with it. The thing that troubles me greatly, and I'm satisfied, if Ms. Slaughter is satisfied, if Nancy Pelosi is satisfied, then I guess I should shut up, because I've been one that argued here that I think men ought to butt out of the discussion of choice as it pertains to women. And I firmly believe that this isn't about an ideological principle or a theoretical debate. The abortion provision in this bill may very well cement the ban on federal funding for abortion for poor women. I recall very vividly when a person that all of us revered, and I certainly thought highly of and traveled with, Congressman Hyde. Few people will hold higher principles than he does, but in the run-up to the establishment of the Hyde provision, he made delicate comments to the effect that he would hope that it would impact poor women, and he didn't mean it in a negative way. I think this bill will go further than current policy because it permanently enshrines into law for the well, I'm going to take your word for that, Ms. Slaughter, that it doesn't, but if it does, then we'll come to live with this. As you know, I've walked the plank with you on a whole lot of these issues over the course of the last 22 years. But I do know that my colleagues on the other side have been about the business of, for the last 3 months, 27 attempts here in Congress to interfere with abortion access. I think it imperils poor women in this country, and minority women especially, and I don't like it. I may wind up voting for it. As Mr. McGovern said, there are a lot of things in here that are good and a lot of things that are bad. I guess that makes for nearly as good legislation as we're going to get. But I'm not a happy camper. I just am about the business of making that known to everybody.
Judge Hastings, thank you very much. Mr. Cole, do you seek time? Gentleman's recognized.
Just, number one, I just want to welcome you both and congratulate you both, quite frankly, and appreciate very much. I'm sure this would have been a little bit differently if Dr. Burgess had been allowed to write it completely by himself. And the first 62 pages. Yeah, well, that's pretty good, actually. And but you know, this is something we all talk about it, but we need a lot more of around here, which is genuine bipartisanship, genuine effort to reach a deal, genuine concessions at each side. And I'm proud of our speaker. I'm proud of our minority leader. I appreciate the work you've done on your committee to arrive at a policy agreement. And I know that was a lot of hard work. And then the pay-fors, I think, are good pay-fors. I mean, I know they're difficult for some people to vote for, but I'm very pleased with what you came up with. Like a good little Republican, I would have liked to do more, but I think you did an awful lot. And more importantly, you did it together. And you did it in a way where we'll see if the Senate is smart enough to follow the good lead that you both and your committee have laid out there. I think they're going to get a little pressure, hopefully, to do that. And so, again, I think this is a very hopeful sign. And for me, maybe the best thing that's happened around here since the Omnibus, which I also consider a good piece of legislation, given the fact we live in divided government. It was a compromise situation. So anytime I've seen what I think is a reasonable deal around here, I'm always happy to support it. I think this is a very reasonable deal. So just thank you for your good work on behalf of the American people. And thank you, too, because I know there was a considerable struggle about this. Obviously, the main focus of this is provider costs, but including the community health care centers, I thought was a really, really very good move, and certainly helpful in my district, and I think more importantly helpful to just millions of Americans that use those facilities and need them. So, again, thank you very much. Well done.
Gentleman yields back his time. Mr. Stivers, do you seek time? Gentleman's recognized.
Briefly, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Pitts, the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Plum, for being here, for your leadership on this. And it's not been too often. I've been on this committee a short period of time. We haven't had many kumbaya moments, and the gentleman from Florida didn't ruin the kumbaya moment. He just took it down a little. But I appreciate the chance to have a kumbaya moment and say thank you for coming to the Rules Committee. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for crafting a compromise bill that, while none of us have everything we want in this bill, there's something for all of us and something for America in this bill. And I really appreciate the hard work. I appreciate the hard work of the gentleman from Texas who's been a leader on this issue for a long time. And I appreciate the inclusion of the community health centers in here and the S-CHIP, because those programs really help people that need it. So I appreciate your work, and I will stop talking and yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Mr. Stivers, thank you very much. Gentleman yields back his time. I'd like to say again, our thanks to you, our thanks to the chairman of the committee, Mr. Upton, our thanks to the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, for getting this done, Mrs. Pelosi, and to the President of the United States, who evidently is extending himself out there also to be a part of this deal. And we appreciate it very, very much. I want to thank both of you for taking time to be with us today. If you'll please leave anything you out there for the stenographer, I appreciate it. The committee is now seeking any other member that would wish to testify on H.R. 2, the Medicare Access and CHIP Reauthorization Act of 2015, and the chairman does not see where there's anyone else that seeks recognition. So this now closes the hearing portion of H.R. 2, Medicare Access and CHIP Reauthorization Act of 2015. Chairman will now be in receipt of a motion from the gentlewoman from Grandfather Community, North Carolina, Vice Chairman of the Community. Gentlewoman's recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee grant H.R. 2, the Medicare Access and CHIP Reauthorization Act of 2015, a closed rule. The rule provides 1 hour debate, equally divided among and controlled by the chairs and ranking minority members of the Committee on Energy and Commerce and the Committee on Ways and Means. The rule waives all points of order against consideration of the bill. The rule provides that the amendment printed in the Rules Committee report shall be considered as adopted, and the bill as amended shall be considered as read. The rule waives all points of order against provisions in the bill as amended. The rule provides one motion to recommit with or without instructions. Section 2 of the rule provides that on any legislative day during the period from March 27, 2015 through April 10, 2015, the journal of the proceedings of the previous day shall be considered as approved, and the chair may at any time declare the House adjourned to meet at a date and time to be announced by the chair and declaring the adjournment. Section 3 of the rule provides that the Speaker may appoint members to perform the duties of chair for the duration of the period addressed by Section 2. Section 4 of the rule provides that each day during the period addressed by Section 2 of this resolution shall not constitute a calendar day for purposes of Section 7 of the War Powers Resolution. Finally, Section 5 of the rule provides that the Committee on Financial Services and the Committee on Ways and Means each may, at any time before 5 p.m. on April 6, 2015, file reports to accompany measures.
You've now heard the motion from the gentlewoman from North Carolina. Is there amendment or discussion? Seeing none, the vote will now be on the motion from the gentlewoman. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it, ayes have it. This will be handled by the gentleman from Louisville, Texas, distinguished gentleman, Dr. Burgess, for the Republicans. And we will proceed accordingly. I don't know exactly when this will be up. Yeah, I know, but do we have any idea? 9 o'clock a.m., probably first thing up. So as soon as we get through with 1 minute and pledge and everything else. I want to thank the committee for their hard work. Louise, thanks for taking my call today. And this finishes our work for the week. Thank you very much.